A ballerina's perspective, from performing with New York City Ballet and Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater to publishing poetry books and mentoring kids and teens. Join us in a weekly discussion with experts to gain mental health clarity and achieve growth and moral consciousness. Give our show a 5 stars, comment, share, and come along for the ride.
Welcome to the Growth, Grace, and Gratitude podcast. Today, we will dive a little bit into creativity, mental health, and shifting from unhealthy to healthy behaviors on the path towards greatness. With Brian, an associate marriage, family therapist, writer, and actor. He has coached over 100 men and is dedicated to helping clients find their purpose, recover forgotten gifts, break old habits, and get a handle on emotions. So, welcome to the podcast. So excited to chat today.
Thank you, Ari. Yeah. Me too. So happy to be here. I'm so grateful you asked me to join.
And I just wanted to start with even the idea of defining healthy or unhealthy behaviors. I feel like it's such a great first step when we're trying to kind of figure out our own humanistic patterns, because so often when we go through a recovery journey or healing, I feel like our patterns do shift. Either the universe forces us to kind of take a step back and shift, or we become wise enough to be oh, this is not healthy, this is not aligning. So it's what do you think is the first step to kind of seeing which behaviors are healthy or unhealthy?
Yeah, I love how you put that, sort of coming to the end of the line and recognizing where the pain is coming from and where that source is, right? And I think that so much of just in my experience, right? I mean, yes, I'm educated and learning from supervisors, etc. But for the most part in my work, I pull a lot from my own experience. And I know for me, within this topic of bad behaviors, eventually my threshold for pain just became smaller, shorter, right? So I guess my capacity for denial became less. My capacity for pain became less. So I was more willing to make better choices, better decisions, form better habits, because the denial and the pain tolerance just wasn't so great.
Wow, that's a great way to put it. It's also kind of like readjusting the frame in which we view ourselves, because it's we so often go through mindless scrolling, and once we shift towards a mindfulness perspective, I feel like that really changes the game. And it also, like you mentioned, taking that accountability is so important, because it gives us that space to kind of regroup and see, is this working out for me? Is this helping me thrive? Is this helping my mental health even? So it's that's really great points. And when it comes to your philosophy, how did you come to see what worked for you? Was it a trial and error, or did you follow a specific kind of set of rules?
It's a whole lot of trial and error. It's a whole lot of trial and error. And it always sounds kind of cheesy when I say this, but it's so true, in that it's just through the books that I've read and the thinkers that I respect. And I truly feel like I'm standing on the shoulders of giants and so many that came before me. And so there's one specific psychological, intellectual lineage that is really dear to me. And so it's kind of this post-Jungian framework. So post-Carl Jung, they're called post-Jungians. And in the 80s, sort of the late 80s, following the feminist movement of the 70s and the 60s, right, mainly the 70s, there was this men's movement, this psychology men's movement that took place in the late 80s. It was really based off of this idea of generative masculinity that generates good, safety, opportunity, comfort, love, for the community. So the focus is on this generative aspect of masculinity. And so I was lucky that I found a lot of these writers and a lot of these thinkers at a very young age, really at 19, 20 years old. I was working on a farm at a time, and I lived in the library there. So many of these amazing figures in the field of depth psychology. I feel like I'm just standing on the shoulders of them, and for how much it's helped me, I feel like it's partly my responsibility to pass it on to the next generation.
fascinating. Yeah. And it's great how like even in the Bible you see like words wounds to wisdom to wealth. So it's like this hierarchy of kind of the way we experience life and the way we have to integrate so many different parts of ourselves and to bring hopefully awareness to those parts. It is in a way like a gift, and it does take kind of courage to go through those cycles and to be honest about what we're healing or what we have to kind of go through to go to the next level. And I
Mm.
feel like that is kind of the daily struggle. It's to uncover our wounds and to, yeah, like be honest about what it is that makes us fearful or keeps us like trapped. And I also wanted to talk a little bit about like the idea of shifting from like mindlessness to mindfulness.
If you're ready to shake off that daily stress, come join us for online beginner, adult, ballet, and yoga classes each week to connect with the flow of movement and the art of ballet into perfect synergy. Come as you are and learn to love your body a little bit more and gain strength and flexibility with each class. All are welcome. Sign up at balletartsmovement@gmail.com. First class free. TeleVital supports focus, energy, immunity, sleep, recovery, and resilience. Start feeling better today on a cellular level with Zeolite, Super Green Juice, micronutrient gut support, and more. Get over 50% off your first order for TeleVital. Link in the description of the podcast.
What do you think are some of the major traps that so many of us fall victim to? Because like I personally went through a journey where I had to kind of like get over the fear of failure. And it's like when you fall and fail, that's inevitable. You have to kind of like expect that in a way in order to get to somewhere, in order to be willing to have success. And I feel like even failure is kind of like a privilege. It's like this is a precursor to success because it gives you that viewpoint of like, okay, these are the things that did not work. So it gives you like feedback. Hopefully, if you're able to see the lesson and to see like where something didn't work out, I feel like that's a great perspective.
Absolutely. And I love just the honesty, just the simplicity of that. And you spoke on that a couple times. And just being honest about where it is, what we need, what we're struggling with, right? There's a necessary level of acceptance that most people just skip over, right? And so when I work with people, and I wrote a thread on this that did pretty well on X, but change really works in three forms. There's three steps. And the first step is that awareness that you talked about, right? Understanding the problem, understanding the growing edge, understanding the consequences of it, how it impacts. The next step is acceptance, right? And so Carl Rogers is quoted as saying, the curious paradox is that when I accept myself fully as I am, only then can I change. And most people skip that step. They skip acceptance. They want to go from awareness and straight into action. But the acceptance is the integration, right? That's the subconscious. That's what's inclusive of our whole psyche, of our whole being. If we don't spend time there, we don't get the opportunity to really integrate that. We simply bypass. Then it's just pure intellectualism, right? Then it's just cognitive dissonance. So we spoke on the traps that exist in the self-help space, that exist in a mindfulness space, that exist in a talk therapy space. Anything that is not turning you deeper and deeper into your body and into the signaling of your body and into your intuition of your gut feelings, which actually exists literally in your gut. Anything that isn't doing that doesn't have a complementary aspect to that. It's not saying it's bad or negative. I just think that you're doing yourself a disservice.
Exactly, right. It's so true. And I think the hardest part is to confront those aspects of ourselves because then it's like we have to see the shadow version of ourselves that maybe connects us back to childhood, and this kind of reveals something about our hopelessness. And we do have to kind of get into the dirty work and be like, what is this trying to teach me? What is this trying to teach me about my fears? about my past failures, about my identity. So it is kind of like, it also takes a toll on our mental health to go through all this process.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
So many people are struggling with mental health issues, especially as we're going to the colder seasons. We actually just, on the northern hemisphere, we had the daylight savings ended, so it's like that shift is also like tricky. And what kind of tips do you have, I guess, for the mental health community and people who are struggling to also kind of like find that groundedness and sense of stability?
Yeah, I would say that slow is smooth and smooth is fast. So, in starting off in this field, people are, and I'm not wanting to discount anybody's need for transformation or anybody's need for radical change. I have radically changed my life. I've radically transformed who I am as a person. That is available to anyone. But the mentality of needing radical change, radical healing, your big moments, your big ahas, your big, can finally let it all go, doesn't exist. So I actually, it does exist. There's nuance, but that's not the norm. It's not the norm. And so I encourage folks to shift a perspective of focusing on healing to hygiene, mental hygiene, mental health. What is health? What's the reference point? What is normal, right? What is health? No, it's about hygiene.
Unlock your best life with Soul app. Book a holistic wellness experience with a trained guide and start changing your life today with compassion practices, inner healing, food and diet, and so much more. Tap into a healthier and happier life with the number one purposeful living app in the US, the Soul app, link in the description of the podcast. Sanger Daniel's online seminar promoting a positive message of self-healing with bioenergy work together with live seminars and remote coaching. Use code BIO20 for a 20% discount for our audience. Link in the description of the podcast.
And that allows you to personalize it, and that allows you to find the tools and do the research and the education, but it also allows you to have a necessary amount of distance in, does this work for me or does it not? Does it fit into what I'm doing? Does it fit into what I believe, what I'm working towards, right? So hygiene as opposed to healing. Hygiene is sustainable. Healing is exhausting.
Yes, fantastic. I absolutely love that. And about hygiene, it's so true because like I remember when I was going through my like detox, that's also some kind of level of hygiene where I had to kind of, my body felt more intuitive. So I was like, okay, I don't feel called to eat meat so much. So I kind of actually stopped eating meat for a few years, and I became more of like vegetarian, pescatarian, even vegan for a few months, and it really helped give me clarity, and that kind of hygiene really helped to instill a newer version of myself. I felt like my cells were renewed. I felt more like clear thinking, and then after a few years after that, I started craving meat, and I just went back to eating meat, my pre-detox self, and I gained even more clarity. So I think it's so interesting how that idea of, yes, like hygiene and being intuitive and feeling what your body needs during different levels of life. I think it's a great message, and especially as people have like narratives about different belief systems, it's like you don't have to follow those belief systems necessarily. You have to listen to yourself and also be kind of courageous enough to listen to those messengers that your body gives to you. Because sometimes you kind of want to be like, oh, whatever, I'm just going to follow this narrative. It's more easier, or it's more conventional, whatever it is, whatever the perspective externally. But then when you think about actually caring about yourself and like the mental hygiene, I think that's really important.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I just love you speaking on the seasons of it. It's just so, it's so natural and it's so normal, right? And I think that we as a culture, as a unit, as a mental health community can do better in speaking on the seasons. And sometimes those seasons are features and not bugs. right? Aspects of my depression, aspects of my addiction have served me. There have been seasons where those behaviors have served me. In fact, they always serve me. They fulfill the function, right? But the body does, and even the psyche does, run in seasons, right? And so this summer, this fall, right, there was a lot of energy flowing through me. There was a lot of business action, lots of cortisol, a lot of outward energy, a lot of masculine go do, right? I'm moving into these final 2 months of the year. It's all parasympathetic. It's all slow. It's less time online. It's all feminine. It's all family. It's all gratitude. It's all allowance. It's all receiving. I put work in for 3 months. That season is over, right? And I'm fortunate in that I work for myself. I have an opportunity to do this. I'm not blind to that, right? But I'm moving into a new season. And did I decide on this? No. This comes through me. This is natural. This is the natural rhythm of my body and the mammalian aspect of my psyche that it speaks to me through different language than I'm used to. It speaks to me through sensation, through memory, through sensory, bodily, embodied experience, right? So learning how to translate the language of the body is the most important thing you'll ever do, but it's incredibly challenging. And so that is what I do as a somatic worker. That's what I do in my course that I have, which I think is probably how you found me, right? That is what I do. I turn people onto the intelligence of their body, help them translate that language so that they can build the relationship and go and have it on their own, right? I'm not interested in working with people for years at a time. I want you to come in, get some tools, go out. You have everything that you need. For most folks, right? There's nuance here. I'm not blind to the nuance.
I love how you mentioned like the feminine aspect, because so many of us do kind of feel creative when we're in the feminine essence, because we're able to kind of like feel that intuitive spark and feel more kind of curious and more inspired to try different things. And so many actually women who are my friends are so much in their masculine role that they feel kind of stagnant and they're not able to dive into their creativity. So I do think it's great that when we're able to tune into that feminine aspect, we can become more creative and find our flow a little bit more. And it's actually interesting. Today's recreation day, which is also like a great opportunity to take a break from that fight or flight mentality, hopefully, and to kind of like take a step back and be like, what do you enjoy doing? How do you find creativity? Like, what is your personal ambition? What is your personal way to fuel that creative spark? And I think when we do connect to that creativity aspect, we do feel less depressive, less stagnant, and more inspired to create new things, create new content, create new steps towards
Yeah,
success.
that's going to happen when you get in touch with God, with creative intelligence, right? With
Exactly.
creativity.
Right.
The cure to your suffering is found in your creative intelligence, right? And so, absolutely,
Exactly.
to access in our wounding, right? What we suppress, what we deny, always directly connected to our ingenuity, our ability to create.
Podpitch is the first and only software that finds, writes, and sends pitches to podcast hosts from your actual email address. Podpitch will make sure you get podcast bookings, guaranteed. Link in the description of the podcast. ClickFunnels easily build any type of online business and sales funnel in record time, no matter what your product, service, or niche, without any tech design or experience whatsoever. Try the ClickFunnels 14-day free trial. Link in the description of the podcast.
Our ability to mold and influence and create and use our hands and impact matter, impact the physical world. That's our gift. Like that is creative divine intelligence at our fingertips that we have, that flows through us. And what a beautiful, beautiful divine mechanism. And so when we're able to embrace it, to experience it, to feel it through that feminine energy, through the reception, right? You don't gain access to that through a lot of doing. You get it through a lot of undoing,
Yeah.
right? That's contemplation. That's meditative. That's just right. And so, absolutely. And so, this is what people are looking for. They may not know that this is what they're looking for, but this is what they're looking for, right? They come to you saying, I want to stop having panic attacks. And absolutely, let's get you in a position where you're no longer having panic attacks. But what you really want beyond that is to be in touch with your own creative ingenuity, your own creative spirit, right? That moisture, that essence that comes through you, from you, and only you, right? Is the nutrition, the nourishment that folks are looking for and they don't realize it, right? So sometimes, it's a spoonful of sugar with the medicine a little bit.
Yes, exactly. It's that spiritual journey of working with the disorder and the order, and to kind of like find a polarity balance, because we are in disorder, we're yearning for harmony. We have to kind of like go through a maze of disharmony and hopefully identify parts of ourselves that are not in harmony, and that's okay. Like you mentioned in the beginning, we have to accept those parts of ourselves, and when we're able to see like that mirror reflection back to us, those fragments, those like unseen, unhealed versions of ourselves, that's disorder, and that's okay. That's not to be rejected or neglected. That's to be integrated and accepted.
It's half of the world. So why ignore it?
Exactly. Yes. Yes.
Half of what
Exactly.
exists. So good luck ignoring it.
Yes. Exactly. And nearby, you mentioned you're an actor, and that's super interesting. How does that come into play with your mental health or hygiene?
Yeah,
Is it
for
fun
me,
like playing?
it's kind of all in the same, right? So whether I'm doing a scene on stage or on TV, or I'm working with a client, it's an exchange of energy. All I'm doing is creating a container for energy to move, shift, transform, alchemize. Doesn't matter where it is, what the stakes are. That's all it is on a base level. But psychologically, storytelling, right? I mean, that's how humans communicate, right? We think we communicate and we think we process the world through the dictionary and yada yada. No, it's through stories, it's through metaphors, through symbols. It's all relational. Everything's relational. And so, yeah, and understanding, really the window into it for me was kind of hero's journey. Like, what is mythology? What do these great myths tell us about the human experience, and what do they tell us about story, and how can we communicate the human experience through story and truths, and truths with a capital T, right? Those were held in narrative and held in story in only a way that we can understand experientially, because truth is ineffable. Can't put words on it. It's a felt experience. It's a felt sense. And so that's what we look for in story. That's what we look for in art. That's what's contained there. So, for me, I mean, I'm a professional human, right? Like, I don't identify with any of these titles anymore: writer, actor, therapist, producer, coach, whatever. I'm a pro at what I do, and what I do is just show up simply with the best attitude possible and try and share some kindness and some knowledge and some love, and that's it. And that's where my window of influence sort of ends there. But if I can embrace that and accept that and understand that there's something way bigger operating beyond my measly ability to get on this podcast with you and just share some experience. And if I could just sort of have that consciousness of that faith with a capital F, my ability to rack up good days is just so much better, right? And after having worked in mental health for 10 years, been in recovery for a long time, like, I don't need to know. I don't need anything grand. Like, I'm here to just rack up good days and help somebody else rack up good days. That's it. If I get a couple good days in a row, I'm a happy guy. I'm a happy guy. It's so simple for me these days.
That's a beautiful testament to having gone through the journey, and to appreciate the simplicity, that minimalistic aspect, because then I feel like we have so much more that is infused into our being when we are kind of grateful for those simple things, and that's the fabric of life. So thank you so much for sharing your journey and for coming on the podcast. I had a beautiful conversation. And where can people connect with you and see your content?
Absolutely. Yeah. You find me on X at I am pro human. So professional human is my company. You can find me on there.
Perfect. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast, Brian. It was a wonderful conversation.
Thank you so much. Cheers.